Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call into the session the Barron County Board of Supervisors meeting for Monday, September 12th, 2022, our regular monthly meeting. I hope you'll bear with me tonight. Louis is with us on the screen, could not be here in person, so I am next in line and will work through this with all of you. So first off, we'll have roll call.
All right. Okay, can you hear me now? All right. So we are starting with John Banks. I know this microphone thing's going to take a minute to get used to.
Here.
Terry Lee,
Here.
Carolyn Bartlett,
Here.
Pam Fall. Anybody's heard from Pam? Okay. Bill Schradel,
Here.
Gary Taxdahl,
Here.
Jim Gores,
Here.
Gary Nelson,
Here.
Roberta Mosentine,
Here.
Pete Olson,
Here.
Kathy Krug,
Here.
Carol Moen, here. Fran Langman,
Here.
Louis Oki,
Here.
Patty Anderson, Randy Cook,
Here.
Jerry McRoberts,
Here.
Marv Thompson,
Present.
Bun Hansen,
Here.
Stacy Wenzel, here. Dana Heller,
Here.
Bob Anderson,
Here.
Stan Buchanan,
Here.
and Audrey was going to be absent this evening. Bill Efforts was also going to be absent this evening. Craig Turcott. All right. And Dale Heineke
Here.
and Bob Rogers
Here.
and Diane Vaughn.
Here.
Give me 1 second here. Computer's got to cooperate. So we have 25 present and 4 absent. And then, Jeff, do you have the public notification? Because I do not.
I do. Wendy Coleman, my executive assistant, has complied with Wisconsin open meeting law requirements. Meeting agendas have been posted on electronic meeting notice boards located on the first and second floor of the Government Center, first floor of the Justice Center. A hard copy of the meeting agenda has been posted in the county clerk's office, and she has verified the proper posting of this meeting. The county board agenda, corrected with September, not August, was posted on the 8th of September at 11:19 a.m.
Thank you. We'll now have the invocation. Pastor Cody Cargus from Maranatha in Rice Lake. So please stand.
Yesterday was 9/11. Take a moment of silence with me to honor those who lost their lives and the families that are still suffering. Father God, we thank you that you are close to the brokenhearted. We know that many years ago on 9/11 was a tragic time in our nation. We know that there are families still suffering the loss and grieving. We pray that you be with those families. But I also pray that it was September 12th that brought such unity to our nation. And we ask that we would have that same kind of unity again. Lord, be with this meeting tonight. Give the decisions that need to be made with wisdom and justice. And Lord, I pray protection over our law enforcement in Barron County throughout this month. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Jeff, do you have any special matters and announcements?
I have two. Number one, we want to congratulate the Wisconsin Register's Deeds Association for receiving the 2022 Governor's Archive Award for Archival Innovation, and that was presented to the association from the Wisconsin Historical Society. And then if you have your planners out, please plan for Tuesday, October 18th, 1 p.m. right here. We are going to have a roles and responsibilities training and workshop from Sarah Diedrich Kasdorf from the Wisconsin Counties Association. So been asked to do this, and so if you'll mark your calendars, Tuesday, October 18th, 1 p.m. That's all I have. Thank you, Carolyn.
Madam Chair, can I say something?
Certainly. Go ahead, Louis.
Just want to thank you for filling in for me. Just so you know, I have a couple family members who have COVID, tested positive, and I've been testing negative, but I just wanted to make sure I'm cautious. I don't want to get our board sick, and I know Carolyn can do a fine job, so thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, I'll do my best. We'll work through this together. Okay, the next agenda item is approving the agenda, and I do have a request to change number 13 to read requesting motion to postpone action to a certain time, and within that resolution. So I'd like to add postpone action to a certain time rather than table. Are there, and are there any other changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to see bring that back to committee because of get problem control. We don't have Sorry,
Okay,
do I have to do that all over again?
yes.
I had the first part memorized. I'd like to see something done with the number 11, the broadband resolution. I believe that we should take another look at that, send it back to committee, and make it into a provider neutral, and also include in that into the part that we need all citizens of Barron County to be included rather than just one particular company. I think it could be a conflict of interest when we talk about which direction this particular company is going to go in regards to the members / ownership. Thank you.
So, excuse me. So Fran, are you making that a motion? Yes.
Yes.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Who second? Okay, Randy, there's a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I had some discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question. Wouldn't we support anyone, any company that would apply for a grant? It's basically saying that we support Mosaic for this grant application. And if any other company would do the same, I would suspect that they would bring a resolution for our support also. Wouldn't that be equaling making the ground rules even then?
Yep.
Well, you know what? I think everybody here in Barron County needs to have access to affordable broadband, and I'm not proposing that we don't take a look at. I want to have it as far as to be neutral, not to have a company that's named and for all broadband customers in Barron County, not just one particular company. There's 3-4 different broadband companies that work in Barron County, and they all do a fine job. But I would like to see the list, not just put one out there, one company out there for all.
But isn't it what Mosaic is the one that's applying, not anybody else?
Well, there's other applicants out there. They're just not asking the county to help them with the grant.
At the executive committee, we discussed this very thing and said that if anybody else wants us to back their grant, we would do that.
But wouldn't it be easier if we just include everybody instead of just making it a resolution that all providers in Barron County, we would back them rather than, what I'm saying is this could be a conflict of interest between the members and the owners, and it looks like in the map there's some names listed, and it just looks like there might be a conflict of interest when they become a member
and part owner of that co-op.
Wouldn't this be taken care of in the discussion of the resolution?
If I may, Madam Chairman? So Fran, are you saying when you're talking about members of the board who are members of Mosaic Telecom would have a conflict of interest if it were specifically for Mosaic Telecom rather than addressing all telecoms?
Well, that would be an answer that Mr. Mensch would have to go over and take a look at. But it certainly looks like we're backing a resolution and we're naming names of people that are going to be in that district, which either they have broadband now or, and they are a part member or owner of that co-op. And I believe it's a conflict of interest to vote for something that you're going to financially down the road have an advantage of.
Gary?
Yeah, I think every grant is specific to a name, and I think that you can't have a broad statement about everybody when the grant is being applied by Mosaic, and Mosaic needs their name on the support because it's specific to them for this specific grant. You can't just have a general statement. The grantees will probably look at it as too general, or grantors, I mean.
Bob?
Yeah, earlier this week, I spoke with a board member of one of the other telecommunication companies that is very active in Barron County, and I mentioned this resolution to him and said, boy, why wouldn't your company go for this? And he said, we've got really no interest or desire to get the company involved or to get the county involved in that thing, and we have no intention of asking the county to support this. So I'm not sure that a general statement, as Fran is suggesting, is appropriate in that case, given my discussion with that other person.
So I jumped the gun on calling the question. So,
You're calling the question on the amendment, Madam Chair.
yeah, on the amendment, correct. So I'm going to go back and call the question again. All those in favor of sending this number 11 resolution back to the committee, respond with an aye.
Aye.
Those who prefer not to, nay.
No.
Nay.
Okay, I'm going to have a show of hands, I think.
A point of order on
Go ahead.
on a roll call vote. If you believe nays have it, we're done. No roll call.
Correct, Mr.
Go
Cook
ahead.
is right. If you declare the nays the winners, that's how it is.
I think, I do believe the nays were the winners, yes.
So now you're back to the main motion.
Okay, so now we're back to the main motion, the agenda itself as is, with the wording change on number 13. So all those in favor? Did we have a motion? Yeah, we did. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. All right, let's move to the minutes from August 22nd, 2022. A motion by Bob to approve the minutes, seconded by Dale. Any other discussion on the minutes? All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. Public comment. I have 3 requests for public comment, and they have asked to be in a particular order, so I will do that. Jim Swenson, you're up first. So if you can come to the podium, and Mike, 3 minutes, and go ahead.
My name, I don't have a green light. Can you hear me?
Yeah, red light.
I'm Jim Swenson, 1127 East LaSalle, Barron, Wisconsin. The first thing I'd like to do is thank the board to stop that spending on that American Rescue Act. Good job. I want to bring something to light today that I know people just aren't aware of. And it consists in our Barron County review.
Okay. This is a paper, I don't know if all of you read it or not. This right here on the front page is called a banner in the newspaper industry. It sort of does show ownership, okay? On here it says Barron County Review. Where the real ownership comes into play is usually on page 2 or 3, okay? In a masthead, right here, okay? It shows Aging and Disability Resource Center as responsible for this, okay? And then it gives a little blurb about the actual publisher that's down in Prairie Farm as far as a P.O. box. Now the problem with this that we've identified, every ADRC office in the state of Wisconsin is a 501c3. Okay? There is not a 501c3 in the country that's allowed to have political activity. Okay? I want to read you something here, just so you understand where I'm coming from. If I can get my phone to work. It says, under the Internal Revenue Code, all sections 501c3 organizations are absolutely prohibited from directly or indirectly participating in or intervening in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for elective public office. If you guys read this paper, it's in it every week, okay? We have stuff in here that talk about insulin and how it's refuted by the Republicans and anti-Tom Tiffany and anti-Ron Johnson, okay? Y'all might know me. I mean, I am the Republican chairman of Barron County, okay? And not only that, we have QR codes that take you to being able to request absentee ballots and voter registrations. And even if you want to see that big mess on January 6th that went on in DC, you can watch these, okay? Now, just to be fair, our Republican candidate for the 25th Assembly,
Time is up.
the 25th Senate,
Your time is up.
also in here. Okay, I guess I'm done, huh? What I'm asking, well, I'll just leave that to the next speaker, okay?
Our second speaker is Bruce Willers. State your name and address.
Do you need any of that?
Good evening. Bruce Willers, 529 North Main Street, Rice Lake, Wisconsin. I'm going to talk a little faster so I can get my point across. I'm speaking tonight in regards to Meals on Wheels, ADRC, and the magazine that is called Free. Free from what? I don't know, because one of the things that Mr. French told us that they're keeping the R's and the D's out of this room. And by no means, when you're using taxpayer money and you're a 501c3, are you keeping R's and D's out of the room when you are authorizing Meals on Wheels paid delivery people, not all of them, to deliver your paper, which is a political paper, whether it's Republican or Democrat. And so tonight, I'm asking the county board to suspend the rules and to make a motion to suspend the involvement in this paper until at which time corporate counsel or you can find a different means of advertising for the ADRC, the veterans, or any other organization, sheriff's department, whomever it may be. I'm not against informing the elderly. I'm against influencing the elderly by using political paid ads. And a 501c3 says you definitely cannot indirectly or directly influence and use a paper of this need, which they pay no taxes. The ARDC pays no taxes to any entity. And so you are using this means of transportation by taxpayers' money, directly or indirectly, to fund political ads. Whether it's Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. If you're going to take and inform the public, and as Mr. Swenson advised you, the QR codes take you to sites to register on voting. That is not the job of this paper or paid ads to tell people where to vote and how to go get registered for vote. That's something that happens at the county clerk's office, the township, and the city council, city clerk treasurer's office. They're the ones that are hired, and they are the ones that are informed by the state of Wisconsin election board to take care of these activities. So tonight, I would hope that, because I don't want any of you people, now that you're aware of the fact that this is happening with a 501c3, you represent all of us in Barron County. I don't want any of you to go to prison because of the fact that we have a 501c3 that is violating these federal agencies and laws as far as tax exempt entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patty Green. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on with our agenda. And our next agenda item will be an update on our new highway facilities. Mark Serby.
Still on? Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. Don't. So good evening. Work continues to be focused on the main part of the facility and the salt brine lean-to building on the back by the salt shed. We have 6 floor pours left in the heated storage. We should be completed with those midweek next week. In the administration area, we're working on getting the floors polished. That's concrete polished floor in there. There's no carpet or vinyl flooring, anything. It's all concrete polished. So we're working on that. Drywall's going in. They're getting ready to paint. In the other areas of the building, they're working on painting. They're working on getting the heating and ventilating systems all ready for the ceilings to get hung. What we're being told schedule-wise is that we're looking at the administration area and the mechanics bay being ready for occupancy sometime in early November. And then the heated storage area, we will be looking at it towards the end of November. That's what our schedule shows. At our weekly meeting this morning, we were informed that some of the main electrical switching gear has been ordered for quite some time and it has not been delivered yet. So we don't know if that gear is going to make it for us to have enough power to move the mechanics into the mechanics area. CBS Squared is working with the electrical contractor on a potential temporary workaround so that we can still make those dates. That's kind of going to depend on what we find out in the next few days about delivery of that permanent switching gear. I know that the electrician is working, trying to pull from other jobs to try to pull pieces together for that electrical switching gear. So that's the update on the project progress. Now we're going to spend a few minutes discussing about the project budget. As you know, the project is projected to be over on budget. This has been discussed at previous board meetings. The county staff has recently become aware of additional budget overruns in excess of those that the board has been made aware of earlier. This came to light when Jody and I were reviewing some worksheets from CBS Squared and in multiple times could not determine where certain line items were in the budget. So we had conversations with CBS Squared, which brought forth some of the additional cost information. Subsequently, we've had 2 meetings between the staff, county board leadership, facility committee leadership, and CBS Squared, as well as a facility committee meeting to start ferreting through this and trying to find some potential ways to mitigate the cost overruns. There's So what's been decided is we're going to have a special county board meeting on September 27th, at which time we will expect to have greater detail as to the financial impacts, the potential cost mitigation measures, and the responsibility for those impacts. It's a pretty fluid discussion right now. We're looking at value engineering. We're talking to the corporate leadership at CBS Squared to determine what their responsibility is in this, and we'll get those details and pull it all together for you for the 27th of September. That's all I have for you.
Time for that's been scheduled for 5 p.m.
5 o'clock PM, September 27th, and we'll remind you at the end again with our future agenda items as well, or our future, but September 27th, 5 o'clock PM, put that on your calendars, and the main part of that meeting will be the discussion and the updates on the Justice Center, or not the Justice Center, the new county shop. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on with the agenda. Jeff, your budget.
This is like we do picture worth 1,000 words. We start by talking about visually where we're at, our budget, 2023 budget.
Jeff, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Lance should be solving that right now. Okay, so Jody, better?
Much better.
Much better. Okay, Jody, if you'd slide down. So we're looking at that, and one of the reasons we slide down is we will always want to talk about our sales tax. We're putting 5.3 million of sales tax against the levy, some general fund balance, which is money is returned in 2022 to apply to the 2023 budget, and then looking at using some fund balance from our health insurance fund if possible. We're going to rediscuss this with the Horton Group next month, but bringing our levy down to 21,753,456, which is a $600,000 increase from the prior year.
Decrease.
See, correct, decrease. Thank you, Jody. Why she does the numbers, not me. Okay, we always go through the summary tax allocation. It's a very important calculation that talks about levy limits and other things. So you'll see there's really one where we were with the new positions, and that's column F. Column J is where I go because I don't recommend new positions. That's a policy decision of the county board. 14 years I've been doing this. I've never recommended a position. I've always said that's your decision. You choose who works here. That's your decision. So if you look at that column, because I'm going to concentrate on that column, we would be reducing the levy $672,160 from last year, or a 3% decrease. If the board chooses to add the positions, it would back that down to a $619,416 decrease. One of the most critical things that we talk about is the hard levy limit cap that we have in Wisconsin. So we're either going to end up somewhere with having some cushion for 2024 of about 52,000 or back to zero. Just depends on how the board wants to approach that. One of the things that's happened is we've had a huge jump in equalized valuation, just shy of 15%. So that drops the mill rate to either $4 or $3.99. So that's the largest jump in equalized valuation that I can remember. Obviously driven up by home prices and people buying lakeshore property and moving in here from out of state, driving up prices. Equalized valuation is not controlled by the county. Equalized valuation for Barron County is controlled by the Department of Revenue out of Eau Claire. That's where that's at. That's a brief overview. Go sliding back up, if you will, Jody. Want to hit on this? One of the things that's happening is we talked about when we borrowed the money for the highway shop that our overall debt levy would drop, and it is dropping quite a little bit. What, about $1.4 million? Our overall debt levy is going down, and that makes sense. As we paid off the Justice Center, they should go down. Actually, that's the right thing to do. It should go down. And then this summarizes where we're at, what we're doing for capital improvements, general fund levy, or excuse me, revenue that offsets the tax levy, Sales tax, we're anticipating to collect next year. Fund balance from what's in our sales tax fund divided by a third. So we take a third, and a third to equalize out the mill rate if possible. Out-of-county prisoner revenue, now this drops. We're going to talk about this next month, but this drops because we don't have any more debt on the Justice Center. We've been taking the out-of-county prisoner revenue. This 100,000 here is for the Sheriff's Department for the positions that they have for the jailers. So what's happening, and we'll talk about in more detail in October, is the money that's been used in out-of-county prisoner revenue to offset the debt levy is working against us this year, essentially because it affects our operating levy. So we're going to be talking about that with the Law Enforcement Committee on the 15th, and then making decisions from there. But you can see then how far the levy is dropping over the years, and just get a visual of that. So that's where we're at. This is essentially this is the entire kind of county budget put in one location where you can look at the mill rate, the equalized valuation, and what we're going to have for a levy. So if you'd slide down, Jody. Oh, a couple things I want to point out. You can see what we're doing for the library levy, which is exempt from the levy limits. Both of these are exempt from the levy limit caps. So then sliding on down, if you would, Jody. So you're sliding on down, you can see that the Solid Waste Board will be keeping the recycling surcharge at $32 a parcel. Estimate 19,000 parcels. So, questions so far? All right, Gary.
Yeah, what was the balance in the health insurance
out there? We're trying to build that up, but we've had a pretty good year. Jody and I are rediscussing the 300,000 because I don't think Horton's going to be in favor of that. They're going to want to put that back into the self-insurance fund, because they've always talked about having 1 year's fund balance, which would be just a smidge around 5 million. So it might change.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's
fluid. Yeah. This is probably, chalk this off to one of Jeff's bad ideas.
What's that?
One of my bad ideas. Truly. We talked about this, and
just one?
I don't remember why I said it, but I regret that I said it. We're going to have to move the money around. I know Louis is already, he wants to know why I want to do this, and he's not real in favor. He wants to see that self-funded be pretty solid. So we'll talk about that next month. Other questions? Okay. We're going to do a bridging work paper. Actually, Jody did a bridging work paper, which is we'll show you next. And this shows you some of the cuts that have been made to get us to where we're at today. And Jody, I'll just let you talk about this. You can turn your mic on, and I'll just you go from here.
Okay. All right. So the way that the procedures go is the departments submit all of their budgets. I put everything together, and then we kind of take a look at where we're at. And with that, we were over our allowable levy limit by about 908,000. So talked to Jeff about it. He scheduled a department head meeting, and so he had a little powwow and told everybody to sharpen their pencils. And I really have got to commend all of the departments, because I mean, we do really have this team mentality at Barron County. And so, I mean, we weren't done with the meeting in 5 minutes. People were coming to my door with, can we do this? Can we do that? And stuff. So I just really give all the departments kudos. So we were able to take care of this deficit. So going down, we had 250,000 reducing our SISOP levy. We are talking about if there's some savings from some other ARPA projects, maybe we could shift some of those capital projects to use ARPA dollars. We increased our sales tax to up 250,000. We have been very conservative with our budgeting, and because with the philosophy that if we collect more than what is budgeted, then we go in that second year and we will use part of that as excess sales tax to apply to the budget. Looking at doing some health insurance buyouts, which Jeff will be talking about probably in October, that would result in a savings of about $183,000. Interest on securities, interest rates are going up, so we're hoping that we'll be able to capture an extra 100,000 there. Increase in DHHS revenues. DHHS department, they're optimistic that they would be able to pull or draw down an extra 100,000. Increasing the health insurance fund balance applied by about $50,000. Dam improvements, rather than levy for them, we're thinking of using some fund balance to take care of those for the Rice Lake and Chetek dams. The special prosecutor dollars that you passed a resolution for not too long ago for $40,000. DA Wright he's optimistic that, he's thinking of foregoing that prosecutor, and then we would be able to reallocate the $40,000 to the budget. Sheriff's Department decreased their budget by about $26,000. Administration decreased our budget by about $25,000. The court's budget had a health insurance change, so we were able to decrease that about $25,000. And all three of those, for the most part, it's either changes in health insurance, maybe somebody going from a family plan to a single plan. Otherwise, maybe with resignations where somebody was at a higher rate of pay, new employees coming in at a lower rate of pay. DA's office reducing their budget by $20,000. Use of animal control fund balance to offset their budget by $20,000. Decrease in the sheriff's CISOP budget by $20,000. They would be delaying a couple of projects till 2024. Decreasing the county board budget by about $16,000. The CCS position, when we get to the personnel request, there are 2 CCS positions that are being requested. It would be, one of them would start January 1st and the other one would be delayed till July 1st, which would save about $15,000. Corp Counsel was able to save about $2,000, and then all of these adjustments, then we were able to adjust the fund balance applied and then transfer some of that to STP project funding, that's surface transportation funding, through the highway department. And we'll be talking about that in one of the tabs coming down the road here. With what I had mentioned about possibly shifting some projects, CISOP projects over to ARPA. And so these are some we would be looking at. I doubt that we would be able to shift all of them, but ones that would be in the queue would be a new maintenance truck, roof replacement for the old jail, Waldo Carlson Blacktop up at the park, Silver Lake Landing, doing some upgrades there, Stanley Security at the Justice Center, and then UW Barron County upgrades up at the campus. Any questions with the bridging work paper?
Jody, can we go back? Yes, go ahead, Diane.
Could you remind me what CISOP means?
Capital Improvement Capital Outlay Plan. There's 2 in the county. Well, there's 3. There's one for the waste energy plant, there's one for the general county, and then there's one for the highway department. The highway department usually about 1.3 million. The waste energy plant's 400,000?
No, about 250,000 for 2023.
And then we're budgeting 250 for this. But I want to explain to the board what we're talking about here in the 183,000. What I'm going to be asking the board to consider is the 183, 180 would be what we're looking at if we were to, management confidential, if you do not take county health insurance and you do not take a family plan, you're paid $400 a month. You do not take a single plan, you're paid $100 a month. I'm going to ask the board to consider expanding that to all employees. We think that net of PCORI fees and others, we can get somewhere about 9 to 14 people that would go off our health insurance. We'd pay them the stipend, but would still save us somewhere around $18,000 a year in this. And then would be a savings for our health insurance fund. So that's why that 183 is in there, to give people the option if they want to get off our plan. So that's what we're thinking about there. And then if you slide down on the ARPA, so we would, for example, if we go forward with the old jail and make our ADRC kitchen, this I would recommend rolling in and taking some of our ARPA money to do that. Some of these other things we could postpone, but I would like to see if we could use some ARPA dollars when we get there in October. So questions on that? Yes.
So you go down a little bit, there was a back up.
Up. Yep, go up.
Go up a little bit.
stuff, the health insurance, where was there was a 50,000 health insurance fund balance applied. So is that increasing the Jeff's one bad idea or what?
That was, the original plan was 250,000. So yes, that was increasing Jeff's bad idea for
Yeah,
the
the
50,000.
Thank you.
Might just will make it bad. If I don't have it bad, it might just will be worse. I mean, all right, going on. If there's no more questions, we're going to keep going. Yes, Greg. Turn your mic
Your
on if
mic.
you would, please.
If people can bounce out, are they allowed to bounce back in?
Yes,
I
if
mean,
they have a qualifying event, we are an employer over 250, that we are required to let them back in if they have a qualified event.
Okay.
Yep.
so-
Other questions? Good. Gary?
This might be a long answer, but what are the guidelines for ARPA and how you spend their money?
We got less than $10 million, so it's pretty much wide open. Other
Really?
than we shouldn't, other than they say you shouldn't build a new building.
Well,
Here, or, yeah.
On the, what Mr. Turcott said, when they could bounce out, there's a certain dates though, isn't it?
Correct. We have an open enrollment period in October and November. If a person would choose to do this, they could go out of our self-funded health plan at that time. However, if they got into 2023, for example, let's say they went on their spouse's family plan and that spouse lost their job, and that's a qualifying event, we would have to let them back onto our plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Other questions? Those are great questions. Okay, we're going to continue on with how we do this. So we're going to talk personnel requests, because those are always the ones that should cause the most angst, because once they're here, they never go away. Government's very good at adding, very, very poor at subtracting. The ADRC one, if you've been on this board, you know that this has been discussed more than 1 or 2 or 3 years. This is something that we've talked about raising a person from a 0.6 FTE to 1. This would be new tax levy dollars we're projecting based on that person having new person having a family plan. And for new board members, when we budget as if all of these people are coming in taking full county benefits. They're going to get a family plan, everything. So we don't have any surprises. So again, back to the elderly benefit specialist. This is something at least 3, probably 5 years that we've talked about and we haven't had to do. Now it's going to become a reality, I believe, with the person retiring, finally retiring. These are the ones, these 2 positions here are CCS, CLTS. These are the ones where now Stacy is proposing postponing one until July to help save on the levy. But you can see these are state mandated. You can see what the state pays versus what we pay. So it's about a 2/3, 1/3 split of the cost of that. This co-responders position at $57,665, this is budgeted to come out of our opioid money. We received a check for, or should have received a check for about $37,000 already, and bless you, Bob, and then we expect to have more money. This would fit into what that opioid settlement was for. This is what we're supposed to do with this money, is mitigate the effects of drugs up front. That's what we're doing with that money. So that's why that's there. The other ones are positions in the highway fund, which actually the highway committee really talked quite lengthy about this. And what Mr. Servy is proposing is then cutting back on his limited term employees in the summer and shifting these people over to the work that we take on either for the state or for the locals. But you see the breakdown. You see where we're going to be paying for these, where they're going to come out of levy. I talked about this in my update, the $72,013 coming out of levy, and where the rest are going to come from. So that's a discussion the board or executive committee will make. Jody, did I miss anything on this?
Nope.
Questions from board members on that?
Jeff,
Yes.
what happens then the following year? Is that levied, or it just stays like you have it on the screen there, where it's coming fed and then taken out of another fund balance?
Great question. No, these numbers for new tax levy dollars would remain the same or go up, Randy, and so would this, because as we increase salaries or benefits or things go up, then we also increase proportionally that going back to the state or federal government.
And the same thing for the highway department?
Yes, those would be there. In fact, if, for example, things would get, we're going to have a number of retirements out there. If things would go really poorly and you had to cut, you'd cut through attrition. Yeah, those are good questions. Keep coming. Yep. Other questions? Did I answer your question? Okay. Other questions? Yes, Diane.
I have two, actually, please. Could you tell me the relationship between the county and the ADRC, if they're 501c3, and how does that work if we're funding them?
They are not a 501c3. They are part of county government. They're a special revenue fund. So they're not. And how does that work? Slide up. If you'll slide up, Jody, so she can see this. So the aging department is a separate fund. ADRC is a separate fund. Aging fund, we put for the 10 cents that we put in, we draw down 90 cents of state and federal dollars. For aging ADRC, we put in a third, 66 2/3 comes from the federal government. And I'm using the ADRC in broad terms because that fluctuates every year based on what our Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement. And that can fluctuate based on what we have instant time reporting, and that can fluctuate based on time, say that Jen, so for example, Jen Jaco is the director. If she would spend more time in aging one year, we would get less money, Medicare money. So that fluctuates. So did I answer your question? Did that make sense?
I think so. Based then on the comments, were the comments talking about something else with this newspaper? Is that a totally different topic?
The ADRC is not a 501c3 corporation.
Okay. And then one other question, is this, all these positions, we take it all, or can we take some of them? How does that work?
You can take all or none. All or some, it's your choice.
Okay. So I know at the health department, we were discussing 2 full-time positions, and now we backed one off to half-time, but we only really need one at the moment. So we can say we'll take the one that we need, not the half-time or whatever.
Right, you're going to have a public hearing on September 26th. Yes, that's where the public hearing is held, and that's when that committee should make a recommendation of what they want in there. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Seeing none, we'll keep going. All right, so this is great questions. Actually, Diane, great questions on the contingency fund. We budget a contingency fund for specific reasons. Number one is just to have a contingency. An organization this big, if you done any corporate budgeting, you know you just don't know what's going to happen. However, these are very specific reasons that we do this, and I'm going to explain them. We have employee payouts, retirements, and resignations. And instead of taking that out of unassigned fund balance, we budget in the contingency fund as well as qualifying plan changes. So let's say we hire somebody. What does that mean? We hire somebody, they're single, they get married. They have the right to then say, look, I want to have a family plan. That's what we budget these for. $525,000, this is based on the most recent, what we think increase will be in our self-funded health insurance as of a month or two ago. They were projecting 8.65%, so we're budgeting 9, and then I'm subtracting off that the 183, 180 if we decide to do that. And as long as we're on budget, we have really good news on our Health Joy. Our Health Joy utilization is 95% across the 2 years we've been. They're going to be asking us to sign another 2-year contract with no increase. So it'll be something executive will take up. But that has been a real plus to our plan. Hundreds of thousands of dollars not being charged with self-funded health insurance because they have the technology. You can get out your smartphone, take a picture of the poison ivy, send it down, they call you back, you get your prescription, and home you go. It's a big help to our self-funded health insurance. Our put in the budget, 4% COLA, that's pretty standard. I've got about north of 20, I think, counties that 4% is right in there. They're all from 3.5 to some as high as 6%. I'm not recommending 6. I think 4 is reasonable. CPI on average was 5.246, something to think about. We did have a request. We have a number of people retiring. We did have the department heads ask Jody to put some money so they have money to draw as their people retire to train new people. That seems to make sense to me. We've talked about this, actually this body's talked about in person and voting. We looked at pro roll call voting system. The 25,000 is either for a 3 or 5 year contract with them, and we'd know who's here, who's not, and how they voted on every vote. The groundwater study, which we've been looking at, this would cover our second year commitment on this. We did 354 water studies. We're trying to expand that next year. I think that's good use of money, actually. Training for the sheriff's staff, recommended by executive, and then our transportation alternative planning grant, but I think that can go down.
Yes, that's going to completely go away
All right.
when you see the October draft.
Okay, yeah, I thought we'd budget that. So this will go away. Our transportation alternative planning grant, this is something we worked on a few years ago, and then we didn't get it, and now we've got it for bike and pedestrian plan across the county, because if you live on the western part of the county, you know how many people bike out here from the cities and then bike on our roads. We want to have a true plan for that, and it helps Mr. Servey in the future with his LRIP and other things. So that's why we put a contingency. It seems like a lot of money, but if it's not spent, by statute, it's returned back to the general fund and returned actually against the property tax levy by statute. So whatever you plan for a contingency fund is returned. So, questions on that? All right, fund balance. Yes, Jim.
Now, we sit there and you have a contingency there for retirements or early retirements or whatever have you. Do we need anything there in there for, to train new people?
That's why we put 15,000 in there. Yep, because.
Oh, that's the 15,000?
Yes, that's a great point. We have a number of people who are going to retire, and I'm glad you're sitting down, because by 2030, there's only 4 department heads that'll be here. So you're looking at losing 2 to 3 department heads every year for the next 7 years. So that's what that money's for. Ex-firefighter, I bet you'd have liked a little extra money when somebody left. All right, fund balance is very important to a county. And the experts over here, so Jody, I'm going to let you explain and why it's so important with our bonding requirements and stuff.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, fund balance in county government is very important. Just some of the advantages: it mitigates current and future risks because we have that money that we're able to apply if something comes up. Lots of times we see revenue delays, revenue shortfalls, unexpected expenditures. And so, this is the fund balance, supports all of those things to keep everything going. It also aids in establishing, stable budgets, like we're putting excess fund balance towards the 2023 budget. And, it keeps those tax rates in the ballpark too. It also is used when factoring for bond projects, establishing a strong bond rating, and also for getting us good interest rates. And so what they look at are per our county board rules and procedures, our excess fund balance has to stay between 25% and 33% of our annual budgeted expenditures. And so, and because when I did quarterly financials a few months ago too, you see, especially at the beginning of each year, so many times you don't get those revenues from the state or the feds until, after July 1st, but yet the expenses are still going out the door. And so, we use this is, in a sense, our savings account that pays for those bills before the revenues come in. So basically, the calculation is we look at our audited fund balance for 2021, and it was just under 10 million, and it came back at 41.8%. Now, because what happens is all of our departments, our general fund departments, if there's money left over, it goes back into the fund balance. If there were excess revenues, it goes into the fund balance. And then, per our fund balance policy, there are certain funds that also, if they have surpluses, that all goes back to the general fund balance too. So you can see here, we closed out the contingency, like Jeff had just said, each year that goes back. And so there was $417,000 that we were able to send back. ADRC returned just under 55,000. Child Support Department returned just under 34, or just over 34,000. And DHHS returned just under 300,000. So that's, you know, all of those things getting closed out there. That's how, you know, we were in excess of what we were supposed to have. And so each year with the budget process, we take that excess and then we, you know, we put some to, you know, various projects, but we also then are able to apply that back to the budget so we can reduce our levy. In a sense, you know, we're giving that money back to the taxpayer because now we don't have to tax the taxpayer like we would if we didn't have that. So for consideration for this year, with this budget, and this number is going to be changing, but we're looking at applying to the 2023 budget would be $1,287,000, and then the remainder of about $900,000 would go to surface transportation projects. That's through the highway department, and what those are is there are certain projects that we can work with the state, and it's an 80-20. So we need to be able to save to have our 20% that we can put towards those projects. And one thing I need to correct what I said at executive, because I said that these projects that our guys can't do those projects. Sometimes they can do those projects, but the thing is we still need to provide our 20% of the project for that. So anyway, so that's what we're looking at to bring down our fund balance to that 33%. So we would just be, you know, right at the top. That's just a really comfortable place to be because then we know we've got those funds to be able to use for, you know, anything that comes up. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Jody. So what happens is these, you know, we're going to have very small changes to 30,000 and we'll do something with that. Bad idea on my part, but what'll happen next is the executive committee will recommend a published budget. I'm assuming it's going to be with a mill rate of 399 or 398 or 4. Then it essentially sits still. We publish a budget that's published in October. Then we'll have a public hearing. Then we'll have an October county board meeting where Tim Deaton is going to be here. I anticipate having a closed session, just brief, so you can hear where we're at for 2022, what his recommendation is for 2023. Then we'll carry that recommendation forward to the public hearing. And after the public hearing is held, hopefully finalize the budget. Why do I want to do that? Because by statute, on November 15th, you have to have the apportionment sheets have to be signed by the county clerk and distributed. And you are scheduled to meet on the 15th. I'd like you to settle this on the 7th, so it gives her a chance to get them done, get them out, her signed, and we get them in the mail. The sooner we get them out to the 38 taxing districts, the quicker, the better it is. You don't want to do this on the morning of the 15th. Been there, done that. It is not fun. So I'm going to keep twisting your arms to on November 7th, we get it done. So that's where we're at. Any other questions for myself or Jody? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Get my agenda back here. All righty, we're ready to move on now to item number 9, the resolution rededicating the Veterans Memorial Auditorium at the Barron County Government Center. Can I get a motion to bring this on the floor? Roberta? Gary has got a second?
Second.
Okay, you have the resolution in front of you. Do you have any questions? Jeff had a nice explanation earlier, and I think the resolution is self-explanatory, but is there any other discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Excuse me for interrupting. I have, as parliamentarian, I have to clarify that you as chair, you had it on the floor for discussion. You as chair moved by your power to call a vote. Is any of the members assembled against the powers of the chair to call the vote instead of making another step asking it to be voted on? Hearing none, your ruling stands, ma'am.
Thank you. Motion carried?
Yes, that's
All right. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to number 10, the resolution to transfer from the contingency fund for UW Stevens Point Water Study, $36,915. Again, I need a motion to bring this on the floor. Bob Rod-
Louis Oki make that motion.
I'd recommend you ask from. Ma'am, I'd make the recommendation that you make a motion for approval. That way we don't have to move from discussion off the floor to approval. So if you'd clarify that you're asking for a motion for approval from the assembly, that would save a point.
Okay, I will entertain a motion for approval from the assembly.
Louis Oki make that motion and remind you that we need a 2/3 roll call on this one.
That's correct.
I'll second that.
Jerry McRoberts, a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll
Oh,
call.
we have to have a roll call vote, yes.
I'll be doing a roll call vote on that one.
This is 2/3.
All right, and we're starting with Terry Lee,
Yes.
Carolyn Bartlett,
Yes.
Pam Fall was absent, Bill Schradel,
Yes.
Gary Taxtell,
Yes.
Jim Gores,
Yes.
Gary Nelson,
Yes.
Roberta Mosentine,
Yes.
Pete Olson,
Yes.
Kathy Krug,
Yes.
Carol Moen,
Yes.
Fran Langman,
Yes.
Louis Oki,
Yes.
Patty Anderson, Randy Cook,
Yes.
Jerry McRoberts,
Yes.
Marv Thompson,
Yes.
Bun Hansen,
Yes.
Stacy Wenzel, yes, Dana Heller,
Yes.
Bob Anderson,
Yes.
Stan Buchanan,
Yes.
and Audrey is absent. Bill Efforts, also absent, and Craig Turcotte's here now. Dale Heinecke,
Yes.
Bob Rogers,
Yes.
Diane Vaughn,
Yes.
John Banks.
Yes.
All right, so that goes through with 26 yes and 3 absent.
So the resolution is approved as presented. Thank you. Moving on, we'll move on to number 11. The resolution, I would like to have a motion for approval of the resolution supporting Mosaic Technologies Incorporated Broadband Expansion Grant. Bun, and a second by Stacy. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman. I understand the districts, whereas reconnect, and it lists the districts. I have Mosaic run, in fact, I give them an easement on my property, and I cannot get connected to high-speed internet. Today, I got a call from, well, you would know him, Phil Hinkle, lives over by Klondike Hill. He too is in the same boat. I have no problem supporting high-speed internet, no matter what company comes forth, but I would certainly hope that they would take care of Barron County before they move into other counties, like Sawyer as they head towards Hayward and those places. Just a note.
Other comment or questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify with an aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with an A. Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, number 12, an ordinance to create Chapter 9.22, purchase or possession of tobacco products. And I believe this is in your packet as well.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Pete Olson, approve the resolution. Okay, thank you. Stan Buchanan, seconded the motion. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. Number 13. I'm requesting a motion I would approve a motion to postpone action to a certain time on Resolution 2022-40. And the postponing to the certain time would be to May of 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Dana Heller made the motion. Do I have a second? Patty Anderson is the second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. Number 14, American Rescue Plan Act expenditures. Who wants to
Are
handle
there any
that?
questions for Jody on that? We're going to continue to put them in your packet. Any questions for Jody? Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 15, report from County Administrator.
Yep, thank you. I did put in where we were on our high-cost insurance claims. This will be talked about, I am anticipating, by Tim Deaton from the Horton Group with the county board in October. So I'm going to schedule him right up front top of the agenda. I've talked about what the property committee did. I would also update you that the building inspector, according to EDC Director Armstrong, the building inspector did look at Ann Street School, and it looks favorable that that could be open for a daycare. He needs to balance that with the possibility that one of the school systems may have a K-4 kindergarten in there. So he's working on that, so that could really work to our advantage if this comes in over here at the jail favorably. So I'm encouraged with what's happening, and I want to just thank Dave for getting on top of that. On Salvation Army and the Highway Double T building, as you know, this board approved a one-time expenditure for them to purchase that property, and then it was their responsibility to get it improved. They've spent those grant funds, or they've informed me that they've spent almost all those grant funds, and actually by the end of the month, that should be spent. That's what they told me. They are having some difficulty getting anybody qualified to bid on the actual rehabilitation, but that's their gig. That's not ours. We went in with that to help them get the property, working with Benjamin House and Polk County to get that up and running. Item number D, that will be handled by Jess. She's putting together a survey at the request that came from the public to Chair Oki, and maybe he wants to talk about that. I will say that it's with an email. Everybody should have that. Check your email. I inform you that as of January 6th, our current treasurer will be retiring, and we will be recruiting per the policy or per the resolution that we have. Wish all the best for Vani. Great treasurer, wonderful to work with. Gonna miss her. Another department head will be leaving. So with that, and then item F, this will be brought to the Law Enforcement Committee on the 15th to give consideration to rescinding, setting up essentially a sinking fund for repairs out at the Justice Center after Jody informed me that that works against us for our levy limit caps. So that will be brought back to the county board if they so are inclined, if the Law Enforcement Committee is so inclined, and we'll rescind that and then start using that money in 2024 against the operating levy. So that's what I have for updates. Any questions for me? I do have one appointment, Mr. Johnson, to be appointed to the Veterans Service Commission. I met with him, and he comes on a recommendation of VSO Officer Bukowski and myself.
I need a motion to approve, please.
I make that motion.
Who made the initial? Pete Olson made the motion. Bob Rogers is the second. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Okay, any claims, petitions, or correspondence? No.
Sorry about that. No.
None tonight. Thank you. All right, suggestions for future agenda items.
We'll have the budget. We'll look over self-funded health insurance for 2022 and renewal for 2023. That may be a closed session, board members, because we would probably be negotiating with Tokyo Marine for our renewal. I would think that we would want to maybe send out some feelers or put forth what our policy is before we renew that, because we have until December, I believe it's December 1st to do that. So that may be a closed session. I talked about October 18th, and then the other one, possible commitment of funds. So that's what we're going to have for potential future agenda items. Yeah, and a special county, remember the special county board meeting, Tuesday, the 27th, 5 p.m. right here.
Any other suggestions for future agenda items? Gary?
Yeah, I would like to have the Corp Council review the ARDC review newsletter, if they're a government entity versus a 501(c). I remember when the ARDCs were established, and there was a lot of bidding for some of that out of the legislature.
Okay, was there another hand that I saw? Roberta?
Oh, I was just, we were talking about what our positions are sitting here, and it was just a point of, could maybe every 3 months, we just move each down and around so that the people in the back, like, okay, can get to hear you and see you. I mean, it's just a suggestion. I don't care when you do it.
Okay, there's a suggestion to move it around a little bit, so some are closer, some are further back. Take turns. Play nice. Okay? You'll take that into
I know my
consideration.
stanchion right now.
The seating chart that's currently utilized is District 1, District 29, District 2, District 28. But obviously that was just something that we tried since this is a new setup. Definitely open to different options, and if anybody has any suggestions, let me know. But Louis and Jeff ultimately make the call on that. I just do as I'm told. So
That's just, she's just suggesting, we'd say move Fran here and then just keep rotating people around. I think that's her suggestion. That's the other, I know other counties that do it that way. They move every so often, they move around. We can do that.
Okay, all right, we'll let them work on that as well. And if there are no other future agenda items, suggestions, we will adjourn by unanimous consent. Thank you.